MS. Shun, these are the ultrasound results. According to the findings, you are 6 weeks pregnant. Even more exciting is that there are 2 gestational sacs in your uterus. The doctor smiled and continued, "Congratulations indeed." Shun Shui lowered her gaze, placing a hand on her still flat abdomen, and asked in confusion, "2 gestational sacs, does that mean I have 2 babies in my belly?" The doctor nodded affirmatively. "That's correct, you're carrying twins." After listening to the doctor's instructions on pregnancy precautions, Shun Shui folded the examination sheet and tucked it into her bag, placing it at the very bottom. As she walked out of the hospital, Shun Shui seemed somewhat dazed. She looked up at the clouds on the horizon. The sky, which had been clear and sunny just moments ago, had suddenly turned overcast with dark clouds, lightning, and thunder. Hai Cheng hadn't seen rain for over a month. It seemed a heavy downpour was finally on its way. Shun Shui let out a light sigh and waved down a taxi. After getting in, she said to the driver, "To Yujiang Mansion, thank you." The car moved forward slowly as raindrops the size of beans pelted the roof, creating a pitter-patter sound. Watching the water droplets meander down the car window, a trace of melancholy crept between Shun Shui's brows. "I really didn't expect to get caught after just one time." She and Jiu Ziyue had been married for over 2 years, but it was merely a business alliance. They hadn't married out of love. After marriage, Jiu Ziyue occupied the master bedroom while Shun Shui stayed in the guest room, maintaining a very clear boundary between them. Most of the time, Jiu Ziyue would go straight to his study after meals, while Shun Shui would watch TV in the living room or practice calligraphy and painting in the art studio, although living under the same roof. The 2 of them didn't communicate much every day. Everything had been peaceful until a month ago, when an unexpected incident disrupted the balance. That night, Jiu Ziyue was completely drunk and was helped into the house by the driver, swaying unsteadily. It was the first time Shun Shui had seen him so drunk. She quickly stood up and went over to help carry Jiu Ziyue to his room. She placed Jiu Ziyue on the bed, and the driver bowed before stepping out. Shun Shui caught a faint whiff of alcohol in the air and wrinkled her nose in distaste. She reached for the blanket and gently draped it over him. As she turned to leave, Jiu Ziyue grabbed her slender wrist and, with a slight tug, pulled her into his embrace. Before Shun Shui could react, Jiu Ziyue lowered his head and pressed his lips to hers. He breathed in the fragrance emanating from her hair, intoxicated by her sweetness. The red rose quietly bloomed in the dark night. The next morning, they both woke up and casually greeted each other as if nothing had happened the night before. If she hadn't been feeling a bit nauseous these past 2 days, Shun Shui wouldn't have come to the hospital for a checkup. She initially thought she just had gastroenteritis, which was causing her frequent nausea and loss of appetite. During the consultation, the doctor routinely asked her, "Have you been sexually active recently?" Shun Shui was momentarily stunned but answered truthfully, "Yes." The test results revealed that Shun Shui was already 6 weeks pregnant. It all happened so suddenly, leaving Shun Shui somewhat at a loss. After more than 2 years of marriage, Jiu Ziyue had never touched Shun Shui until that night. As for whether Jiu Ziyue wanted a child, Shun Shui had no idea in her heart. He probably didn't want one. After all, she and Jiu Ziyue had a contractual marriage, with a 2-year term, and had to play the role of a perfect couple in front of everyone. Jiu Ziyue injected 500 million into the Shun family's company, helping them smoothly overcome the crisis of a broken capital chain. The reason he married Shun Shui was simply because his mother was very satisfied with her. With no one special in his heart, marrying anyone was the same to him. All Shun Shui had to do was play the role of Mrs. Jiu well. The 2-year deadline had arrived, yet neither Shun Shui nor Jiu Ziyue mentioned the divorce. The matter dragged on for several more months. Yujiang Mansion is here. The car pulled over, and the driver turned to speak to Shun Shui. After paying and getting out of the car, the heavy rain outside continued to pour. The road was slippery from the rain, and fearing a fall, Shun Shui walked slowly home, getting drenched in the process. After returning home and taking a hot shower, Shun Shui went into the kitchen to prepare tonight's dinner, waiting for Jiu Ziyue to come home for the meal. Just as dinner was ready, the sound of the door opening came from the entrance. Jiu Ziyue took off his suit jacket, gave it a casual shake, and hung it on the rack in the entryway. Shun Shui carried the dishes out and smiled at Jiu Ziyue. saying, "You're back, go wash your hands and let's eat." What she received was Ji Yuzua's indifferent response. Shun Shui suppressed her morning sickness and prepared 4 dishes and a soup for him. Seeing his aloof attitude, she couldn't help but feel somewhat upset. After washing his hands, Ji Yuzua slightly rolled up his shirt sleeves and sat down opposite Shun Shui. As he sipped the soup, Shun Shui hesitated before speaking. "Ziyue, I have something to tell you." Ji Yuzua raised a handsome eyebrow, his deep eyes fixed on her as he waited for her to continue. "I am pregnant." At that moment, Ji Yuzua's phone rang. "I'll take this call first." Ji Yuzua stood up with his phone and walked to the balcony to answer it. Shun Shui let out a light sigh. Having finally mustered the courage to confront him directly about the child, but in an instant, that courage dissipated. A few minutes later, Ji Yuzua finished his phone call and walked back, yet he didn't sit down immediately. "Shui, I need to go out for a while," Ji Yuzua said with a slight frown, his voice stern. "Whatever it is, we'll talk when I get back." "All right, go ahead, drive carefully." Shun Shui forced a faint smile onto her face. Ji Yuzua put on his coat, grabbed the car keys, and left. Watching Ji Yuzua's hurried departure, Shun Shui felt a tightness in her throat, as if something was weighing heavily on her heart. Before Ji Yuzua answered the phone, Shun Shui had seen the caller ID. Yunyu. Lin Yunyu was Ji Yuzua's childhood sweetheart, having grown up together. Shun Shui had once crossed paths with her, but in recent years, Lin had been pursuing her postgraduate studies abroad and rarely returned home. Old Master Ji Yu and Old Master Lin were former comrades in arms. After retiring from military service, Old Master Ji Yu chose to start a business. While Old Master Lin entered politics, the two families had been close friends for generations, and the bond between Lin Yunyu and Ji Yuzue was also very strong. Previously, Shun Shui had even heard rumors that Ji Yuzue had feelings for Lin Yunyu. Shun Shui looked at the 4 dishes and 1 soup carefully prepared on the table, blinked her eyes, and tears welled up, falling into the soup bowl, stirring a tiny ripple. These were dishes she had made while enduring morning sickness, dishes she had put her heart and soul into. Ji Yuzue only took 1 sip of the soup before being called away by a phone call, braving the heavy wind and rain outside. He still had to go see Lin Yunyu. Was he really that eager? Shun Shui sniffled, wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, picked up the bowl of soup in front of her, and drank it all in one go. Then she stood up and began clearing the table, dumping all the food into the trash. After taking a shower, Shun Shui lay on the living room sofa, waiting for Ji Yuzue to return so she could continue discussing their child with him. She waited until 2 a.m., but Ji Yuzue still hadn't come home. Shun Shui didn't wait for him any longer. She returned to her room and lay on the bed, tossing and turning all night, unable to sleep. Lin Yunyu called Ji Yuzue out, and as a result, he didn't return all night. This plunged Shun Shui's heart to the lowest point. She shouldn't have held any illusions. Ji Yuzue married her only to comply with the arrangements of their elders. He has no feelings for her, never had before, and probably never will. Chapter 2, I have no feelings for her. Tossing and turning all night, Shun Shui finally fell into a fitful sleep as dawn began to break. Waking up, it was already past noon. Shun Shui sat up from the bed and was about to stand when a wave of dizziness hit her. She quickly reached out to steady herself against the headboard. After Ji Yuzue left last night, Shun Shui had no appetite and only drank a bowl of soup. Now, having slept until midday, she might have gone too long without eating, leading to a bit of low blood sugar. At this thought, Shun Shui placed her hand on her belly and whispered softly, "I'm sorry, little ones, are you hungry? Mommy will take good care of you from now on." No matter what Ji Yuzue's attitude was, Shun Shui had already made up her mind to be a good mother and take loving care of her children. Shun Shui opened the bedside drawer and took out a piece of fruit candy to put in her mouth. After the dizziness from low blood sugar passed, Shun Shui got up to wash up at the sink. Shun Shui had just stepped out of her room when Aunt Zhong emerged from the kitchen, smiling as she said, "Madam, lunch is ready." Okay." Shun Shui poured herself a glass of water and sat down at the dining table. Aunt Zhong had taken leave a few days ago to return to her hometown for personal matters and had only just come back to work today. Despite being ravenously hungry, As soon as the food was served, Shen Shui felt a surge of stomach acid, waves of nausea washing over her. Shen Shui now finally understands the hardships of being pregnant. If it's already this uncomfortable in the early stages of pregnancy, how will she endure the remaining 9 months? Standing nearby, Aunt Zhong noticed Shen Shui had no appetite during the meal and softly asked, "Madam, is today's food not to your liking?" Shen Shui shook her head and replied, "It's not your fault. The dishes today are delicious. Pregnant women need to pay attention to a balanced diet." Shen Shui reluctantly took a bite of fish. The strong fishy taste filled her mouth, and discomfort immediately rose to her throat. Shen Shui stood up and quickly walked to the sink, retching for quite a while. "Aunt Zhong, I'm already full. You can clear the table now, Mrs. Zhong noticed Shen Shui's pale complexion and reddened eyes, and asked with concern, "Madam, could you be pregnant?" Shen Shui immediately denied it. "No. I've just been having some stomach issues these past couple of days." "Oh, Mrs. Zhong nodded. "If you ever do get pregnant, you must tell me. I'll adjust your diet and prepare special meals for you." Shen Shui smiled faintly and said nothing more. She had intended to discuss this matter with Jiyu Ziyue last night. But now, she didn't want anyone to know about her pregnancy. In the afternoon, Shen Shui received a WeChat message from Jiyu Ziyue. "Jiyu Ziyue, Shui. We're having dinner at the old house tonight. I'll pick you up at 6. Shen Shui replied, "Okay, Aunt Zhong, there's no need to prepare dinner. We're going back to the old house for dinner tonight." Shen Shui said, "You can finish up early and go home." Hearing they were going out for dinner, Aunt Zhong quickly responded, "Oh, all right." Jiyu Ziyue was always punctual. At 6 in the afternoon, he called Shen Shui right on time, asking her to come downstairs. Shen Shui had already gotten ready. She changed into a plain-colored dress, swept her waist-length hair to one side, braided it into a fishtail, and tied the end with a pearl hairband. Her delicate and beautiful features, flawless jade-like skin, and sparkling bright eyes made her exceptionally striking. Such simple and unadorned attire only served to accentuate her ethereal and serene temperament, exuding quiet gentleness, as she stepped out of the residential complex gate. Shen Shui immediately spotted Jiyu Ziyue, dressed in a black shirt and trousers. His tall and slender figure leaned against the black Bentley, standing as majestically as a mountain peak. The crimson sunset cast its glow on his stern face, making him look like the male lead from a TV drama. So handsome it was impossible to look away. As Shen Shui approached, Jiyu Ziyue lifted his gaze to her, then circled to the passenger side to open the car door for her. Apart from not loving her, Jiyu Ziyue was flawless in every other aspect. On the drive to the old family estate, Shen Shui kept her eyes closed, her thoughts a tangled mess. He stayed out all night without a word of explanation. Clearly, he didn't care about her feelings at all. This barely sustained marriage might be time to draw a conclusion. The Bentley drove into a grand European-style estate. After getting out, Jiyu Ziyue crooked his arm, signaling Shen Shui to take it, but Shen Shui ignored him. Clutching her bag as she quickened her pace and walked straight through the villa's front door. At this moment, Jiyu Ziyue finally sensed something amiss. What was wrong with her? Why was she suddenly throwing a tantrum for no reason? The living room was lively, and as soon as he entered, he heard old Master Gu's laughter. "Young master, young madam." The butler, dressed in a black suit and white gloves, stood straight to the side. Slightly bowing as he reached out to take the Hermes bag from Shen Shui's hand, Shen Shui slowed her pace and walked to the living room with Jiyu Ziyue, politely greeting the elders of the Jiyu family. It turned out that Jiyu Shiyu had arrived. No wonder Grandpa Jiyu was smiling so happily. Jiyu Shiyu was Jiyu Ziyue's cousin, cheerful and always full of laughter. She had a way with words and was well loved by the elders. "Sister-in-law, I made these matcha egg yolk pastries myself and brought them over." Jiyu Shiyu placed a plate of pastries in front of Shen Shui. "Try them and see if you like them. Did you come up with a new flavor again? You're amazing." Shen Shui took a small bite and immediately couldn't stop praising it. The outer layer of the egg yolk pastry was flaky and melted in the mouth, while the filling was sweet but not cloying. With one bite, the light aroma of matcha emerged, blending perfectly with the savory richness of the egg yolk. Li Peiji smiled softly and said to Shen Shui, "Shiyu loves experimenting with these desserts. I think it tastes great too. Seeing you enjoy it makes all the effort worthwhile." I didn't waste my time all afternoon. Jiu Shiu effortlessly poured Shen Shui a cup of pure tea. Shen Shui was momentarily stunned, and until the tea grew cold, she never took a sip. The tea before her was too strong. After becoming pregnant, she had to avoid drinking strong tea. While they were chatting in the living room, Jiu Ziyue and Jiu Yuanlin went upstairs to the study, where the father and son discussed some company matters. Proceed with the coastal resort project as you see fit, Jiu Yuanlin said, taking a sip of his tea. Ziyue, you and Shui have been married for over 2 years now. Isn't it time to consider having a child? Dad, you know how it is. The company has several major projects underway right now. When would I even have the time? Being busy during the day doesn't mean you can't make time at night, Jiu Ziyue said coolly. I have no feelings for her, nor will we have children. The only reason I married her was because you approved of her. Nonsense. Jiu Yuanlin slammed his teak down heavily, his expression darkening to the extreme. Who do you think you're doing right by with this behavior? The study fell into a deathly silence. After a long while, Shen Shui raised her hand and knocked on the study door, breaking the silent standoff between father and son. Never before had she hated her acute hearing as much as she did now, able to hear their conversation clearly even through the thick wooden door. Yes. She had heard Jiu Ziyue say it unmistakably. I have no feelings for her. The study door was pulled open from inside, and Shen Shui smiled softly, saying, Dad, Ziyue, dinner is ready. Mom asked me to come up and call you downstairs to eat. During the meal, Shen Shui remained cheerful and talkative, as if nothing had happened. After returning home from the old house, Shen Shui locked herself in her room, with Jiu Ziyue's words echoing incessantly in her ears. I have no feelings for her. Chapter 3. She decides to divorce. Early the next morning, after finishing breakfast, Shen Shui took a book from the study and sat quietly on the balcony to read. The apartment was a spacious flat located by the river. The wide balcony was adorned with many green plants, and sitting on the wicker lounge chair, one could enjoy a panoramic view of the Qinglan River through the glass railing. A mug was placed on the glass coffee table, making a faint sound. Shen Shui turned a page of her book and, without looking up, said softly, Thank you, you're welcome. A deep, magnetic male voice came from beside her. Shen Shui was momentarily stunned. Under Shen Shui's gaze, Jiu Ziyue took a seat in the chair next to her. Shen Shui raised her hand to touch the tip of her nose and chuckled awkwardly. Why haven't you gone to the company yet? Didn't you say the other day that you had something to tell me? Jiu Ziyue said in a calm tone. You can say it now. Shen Shui lowered her eyes slightly, her fingers pinching the edge of the book page, and said softly, There's nothing to say now. Originally, she had intended to tell him about the child, but now that she knew he didn't want children, there was no need for him to know about her pregnancy. Jiu Ziyue frowned and glanced at his watch. If there's nothing else, I'll head back to the company. I have a meeting this morning. Millimeter, okay. Shen nodded with a smile and lowered his head to continue reading. After lunch, the phone on the coffee table kept vibrating incessantly. Shen Shui walked to the living room, picked up the phone, and answered the call. Hello, Sungyu, Shui. I'm finally back today. Sheng Sungyu's sweet and soft voice came through the phone. Shen Shui said, Didn't you say you'd be back on the 22nd? Today's only the 19th. Did work finish early? Yeah, the shooting schedule went smoothly, so I came back a few days early. Sheng Sungyu then asked, Are you free this afternoon? Come shopping with me. Sure, let me change my clothes. See you soon. After hanging up the phone, Shen Shui changed into a beige Chanel dress with black trim, put on long fringe earrings, and lightly combed her hair. Because she was pregnant, Shen Shui didn't wear any makeup. She walked to the entrance, put on her flat shoes, picked up her bag, and went out, driving to the agreed-upon mall. As soon as Shen Shui entered, she saw Sheng Sungyu standing at the corner wearing sunglasses. Sheng Sungyu came from a well-off family, with parents who were business owners running a company of considerable size. However, she has loved acting since childhood. After graduating from drama school, she entered the entertainment industry as an actress and is now considered a mid-tier celebrity. At first, her parents disagreed, but in the end, they couldn't resist their daughter's determination and compromised out of love for her. Sangyu, long time no see. Oh my dear Shui, did you miss me? As Shen Shui approached, Shung Sung-yu opened her arms and gave her a hug. With a slight smile at the corner of her lips, Shun Shui said, "Yes, you've been in the crew for over 4 months. I've missed you so much, Tilda." Shung Sung-yu nodded contentedly and asked with a smile, "Shui, how have you been lately?" "I'm alright, just the same as usual. With you not in Haicheng, I've been a bit bored. No one to go shopping with me." As they chatted, they stepped onto the escalator and went up to the second floor of the mall. Planning to browse the women's clothing section, after visiting a few of their usual stores, both of them were carrying several shopping bags. At this point, Shung Sung-yu shook her arms and said she was a bit tired, wanting to sit for a while at the cafe upstairs. After ordering at the cafe, they found a sofa seat by the window and casually placed their shopping bags beside them. After sitting down, Shung Sung-yu propped her chin on her hand, adjusted the frame of her sunglasses, and said, "Shui, it's been months since we last met, but I feel like there's something different about you today." Shun Shui narrowed her eyes slightly and smiled. "Then tell me, what do you think is different about me?" "Well," Shung Sung-yu pondered for a moment, "you usually wear high heels. But today you're wearing flats. Also, you just ordered a lemon sparkling water." "Oh, I recently realized that flats are more comfortable. Besides, I just didn't feel like drinking coffee today." Shun Shui didn't expect Shung Sung-yu to notice the anomaly so quickly. Of course, Shung Sung-yu wouldn't believe it and continued shaking her head, saying, "Something's off, really off. You're definitely hiding something from me." "Alright, I knew I couldn't fool you." Shun Shui chuckled softly, leaning closer to Shung Sung-yu's ear and whispering, "I'm pregnant." "What?" Shung Sung-yu's face lit up with surprise, her voice involuntarily rising in volume. "Sure." Shun Shui placed an index finger to her lips, reminding her, "Sis, you're a celebrity. You know, could you maybe pay a little attention to your image?" Covering her mouth with her hand to suppress her excitement, Shung Sung-yu whispered, "I'm about to become a godmother. If they weren't in a public place." Shung Sung-yu would probably have jumped for joy. Shun Shui smiled and nodded. "Yes, you're about to become a godmother." The moment she found out she was pregnant, she wasn't as happy as Shung Sung-yu is now. More than anything, it was surprise. The child came too suddenly, completely outside Shun Shui's plans. Several minutes passed, and Shung Sung-yu was still staring at Shun Shui's belly, her smile unwavering. "Sister-in-law," a sweet female voice came from behind. Shun Shui and Shung Sung-yu turned around simultaneously to look behind them. A pretty girl stood there, dressed in a lotus pink dress, her face fair and lovely, adorned with exquisitely flawless makeup. She looked somewhat familiar. Shun Shui thought for about 10 seconds before realizing. The girl before her was none other than Lin Yunyu. "Yunyu, it's been a while." Shun Shui smiled faintly as she looked at Lin Yunyu and asked, "When did you return to the country?" "I came back the night before last." Lin Yunyu took out a small velvet pouch from her bag and placed it in front of Shun Shui. "Sister-in-law, it's good timing to meet you. Could you help me return this to Brother Zeyue?" Shun Shui opened the velvet pouch and froze for a moment. Inside was a men's diamond ring. How did Jiyu Zeyue's wedding ring end up with Lin Yunyu? That night, Shun Shui's eyes darkened slightly, and for a moment, her heart ached as if pricked by a needle. "You should return it to him yourself." Shun Shui placed the ring back into the velvet pouch and handed it back to Lin Yunyu. Lin Yunyu blinked her eyes, pouting in confusion. Alright then." Putting the ring back in her bag, Lin Yunyu didn't stay long. She had also arranged to meet someone at this cafe. Running into Shun Shui here was purely coincidental. Shung Sung-yu noticed the look on Shun Shui's face and asked with concern, "Shui, between you and Jiyu Zeyue?" Shun Shui's eyes were slightly red as she looked up at Shung Sung-yu and said softly, "Sung-yu, I've decided to divorce Jiyu Zeyue." Chapter 4. After the divorce papers were signed, in the past, hearing Shun Shui mention plans for divorce wouldn't have surprised Shung Sung-yu. Shun Shui and Jiyu Zeyue's marriage had been one of convenience, with both leading separate lives in peaceful coexistence after tying the knot. But now that Shun Shui was pregnant, she still intended to divorce Jiyu Zeyue. "Shui, have you made up your mind? Are you really going to divorce Jiyu Zeyue?" Shung Sung-yu's gaze swept over Shun Shui's abdomen. Shun Shui nodded and said firmly, "Yes, I've already made my decision. Is it related to that woman just now?" "No," Shun Shui said softly. "You know, I married Jiyu Zeye in the first place only because of interests. Ji Yuziue didn't want children, and Shen Shuwei had been contemplating these past few days whether to divorce him or not. Lin Yunua's presence only strengthened Shen Shuwei's resolve to get a divorce. Ji Yuziue had personally admitted that he had no feelings for her. Given the circumstances, Shen Shuwei no longer hesitated and decisively chose to divorce, allowing Ji Yuziue and Lin Yunyu to be together. Seeing Shen Shuwei's resolute attitude, Sheng Sungyu stopped trying to persuade her and instead raised her arms to give her a hug. "Shuwei, I unconditionally support your decision. If there's anything you need help with, you must tell me. After all, I'm the child's godmother. Millimeter, I'll be fine, don't worry." Shen Shuwei gently touched her still flat belly. A mother's strength comes from her child. For the sake of her baby, she would definitely live well. Take care of yourself and the child. As dusk fell, the European-style living room was brightly lit. Shen Shuwei looked at the document folder in front of her, picking it up and then putting it down again. She turned her head to glance at the tightly closed study door, took a deep breath, picked up the document folder, stood up, and walked to the study door, raising her hand to knock. Knock, knock. A knock at the door interrupted Ji Yuziue's train of thought. Ji Yuziue called out, "Come in," and Shen Shuwei pushed the door open. "Shuwei, what is it?" Ji Yuziue sat by his desk, the computer screen displaying documents filled with various data, perhaps because his workflow had been disrupted. His voice carried a hint of displeasure. Ziue, there's something important I need to talk to you about." Shen Shuwei pulled out a chair and sat down across from him. Ji Yuziue looked at Shen Shuwei, waiting for her to continue. Shen Shuwei took the divorce agreement out of the document folder and handed it over, placing it in front of Ji Yuziue. Seeing the words "divorce agreement" written in bold on the document, Ji Yuziue's eyes were filled with shock. "Shen Shuwei, you actually want to divorce me?" Ji Yuziue had never imagined that Shen Shuwei would be the first to bring up divorce. After marriage, Shen Shuwei had always played the role of a perfect wife, beautiful, gentle, well-educated, and filial to the elders. Apart from lacking emotional attachment, Ji Yuziue was quite satisfied with Shen Shuwei and had never considered replacing her as Mrs. Ji Yu. Shen Shuwei met Ji Yuziue's gaze and said softly, "Ziue, our marriage was only for mutual benefit from the start. The agreement was for 2 years, and now the time is up." Ji Yuziue remained silent for a moment before speaking in a cold voice. "Have you made up your mind?" Seeing Shen Shuwei nod firmly, Ji Yuziue opened the divorce agreement, scanning the terms rapidly. What shocked Ji Yuziue even more was that Shen Shuwei had not requested any division of assets in the divorce agreement. Instead, she had clearly stated that she would leave with nothing, voluntarily relinquishing all marital property. Shen Shuwei noticed Ji Yuziue's furrowed brows and asked, "Is there a problem?" She had already left with nothing. Could it be that Ji Yuziue didn't agree to the divorce? "Although you didn't ask for a share of the assets, I can't give you nothing. I plan to transfer the title of our current residence to you. This property is a spacious riverside apartment. At the time of purchase, the price per square meter exceeded 200,000 yuan, and it has appreciated slightly over the past 2 years. Its current value is approximately 150 million yuan. No, I don't need it." Shen Shuwei shook her head and refused. When the two families arranged the marriage, Ji Yuziue had already injected 500 million into the Shen family. One shouldn't be too greedy. Ji Yuziue looked at her thoughtfully for a long time before saying, "Consider it compensation for that night." His sudden mention of that night made Shen Shuwei's heart tighten, afraid he might discover something amiss. "Since you insist, I'll accept it." Shen Shuwei stopped refusing, eager to settle the divorce matter quickly. Ji Yuziue picked up the pen on the table and signed his name on the divorce agreement. His signature was swift and decisive. Without a hint of hesitation, Shen Shuwei lightly bit her lower lip, blinked her eyes, and concealed the disappointment in her gaze. The next morning, after breakfast, Shen Shuwei and Ji Yuziue left the house together. Before they left, Aunt Zhong remarked, "It's been a long time since I've seen Mr. Ji Yu and his wife go out together." Shen Shuwei simply smiled without saying a word. Indeed, apart from returning to the old family home, she and Ji Yuziue rarely went out together. This time when she went out, by the time she returned, she would no longer be Mrs. Ji Yu. They went downstairs to the underground parking lot, each driving their own car to the Civil Affairs Bureau. There weren't many people applying for divorce certificates today, and their number was called after just a short wait. After handing over all the required documents to the registrar, the divorce certificate was quickly processed. After obtaining the divorce certificate, they went to the housing authority, where Jiyu Zeue transferred the property to Shun Shuwei. Once all the procedures were completed, Shun Shuwei let out a slight sigh of relief, while Jiyu Zeue remained expressionless throughout, making it impossible to discern his emotions. With the divorce finalized, Shun Shuwei thought of Grandpa Jiyu and Gu's parents, who had always treated her well, and felt a twinge of reluctance in her heart. Shun Shuwei walked over to Jiyu Zeue's car and asked, "What about the elders at home? Let's each explain to our own family elders." After saying this, Jiyu Zeue drove away. Perhaps it's for the best, otherwise, Shun Shuwei wouldn't know how to face the Jiyu family elders. After returning home, Shun Shuwei began packing her things. Although the house had already been transferred to her name, for the sake of the child, she couldn't continue living there. Shun Shuwei didn't want anyone to know about the pregnancy for now, planning to keep it hidden as long as possible. Ideally, the Jiyu family would never find out. It was Jiyu Zeue who said he didn't want children, that child would be hers alone, and no one would take it away from her. Upon learning that Shun Shuwei and Jiyu Zeue had divorced, Aunt Zhong came over to help with the packing. There wasn't much to take, and in about half an hour, Shun Shuwei had packed everything up. After bidding farewell to Aunt Zhong, she dragged 2 suitcases downstairs. After loading the suitcases into the trunk, Shun Shuwei got into the car and drove back to the Shun family home. Chapter 5, Kicked out of the house. Going abroad, Shun Shuwei drove into Donghu Yashu and parked the car by the roadside not far from the Shun family villa. The Shun family lived in a row house that wasn't particularly large, with only 2 parking spaces. So Shun Shuwei's car couldn't be parked inside. After retrieving the suitcase from the trunk, Shun Shuwei pulled it along as she walked forward. Swiping her face at the entrance security system, the iron gate quickly swung open. "Young mistress, you're back," the housekeeper said, taking Shun Shuwei's suitcase and carrying it into the house. Shen Yuhong and Mu Ru were sitting in the living room watching TV when they heard the sound of luggage being moved. Both turned their heads toward the entrance. "Aunt Li, whose luggage is all this that you've moved in?" Mu Ru asked in surprise. Before Aunt Li could answer, Shun Shuwei had already stepped inside. "Auntie, this luggage is mine. 5 years ago, Shun Shuwei's biological mother passed away from cancer. 6 months after his mother's passing, Shen Yuhong married Mu Ru, who was 20 years his junior. Both Shun Shuwei and her brother were already in their 20s, unable to accept a woman not much older than themselves as their stepmother. Thus, over the years, she had always referred to Mu Ru as auntie. Shun Yuhong initially tried hard to correct her, but eventually gave up. Mu Ru stood up and walked towards Shun Shuwei, smiling as she asked, "Shuwei, why are you bringing so much luggage home today?" Although Shun Yuhong didn't speak, the puzzled expression on his face was evident. Shun Shuwei looked at Shun Yuhong and said slowly, "Dad, Jiyu Zeue and I got divorced." "What?" Shun Yuhong immediately lost his composure upon hearing this, frowning as he demanded, "How foolish. How could you not discuss such a major matter as divorce with the family?" Shun Shuwei never expected that Shun Yuhong, as a father, would react this way. His first words weren't of concern, but rather questioning why she wanted to divorce Jiyu Zeue. Hadn't she married Jiyu Zeue precisely to save the Shun family's company? Now, Shun Shuwei only felt waves of coldness in her heart. "Dad, there's no love between me and Jiyu Zeue. What's the point of continuing such a life?" Shun Shuwei pursed her lips and continued, "You can't sacrifice half of my life for the company's benefit. Haven't I sacrificed enough for the family these past 2 years? Being a daughter-in-law is not easy, and being a daughter-in-law in a wealthy family is even harder." After several years of internal reforms, the Shun family's company is now back on track, performing even better than in previous years. A loveless marriage has no reason to continue. Shun Shuwei couldn't understand why her father couldn't consider things from her perspective. "Shuwei, you're being too willful." Shen Yuhong suddenly stood up, walked over, and pushed her suitcase out. "Go back and apologize to the Jiyu family immediately. Say you were just momentarily confused. I won't go." It was absolutely impossible for Shun Shuwei to bow her head and admit her mistake to Jiyu Zeue. Divorce was no child's play. It was a decision Shun Shuwei had made after careful consideration, and she didn't think she had done anything wrong. You're not going. Shen Yuhong's face turned red with anger, his eyebrows tightly furrowed. If you don't go to apologize and reconcile with Jiyu Ziyue, don't ever step foot in the Shen family again. I don't have such a willful daughter. Mu Ru gently patted Shen Yuhong's back and softly advised, "Hey, what's all this about? Father and daughter should talk things out properly." Shen Yuhong grew even angrier upon hearing this. Raising his hand to point at Shen Shuwei, he roared, "This unfilial daughter doesn't even regard me in the slightest." Shen Shuwei knelt before Shen Yuhong, her eyes slightly moist. Shen Yuhong thought this gesture meant she was about to bow her head and admit her mistake. She kowtowed once to Shen Yuhong. "Dad, your daughter is unfilial. I won't be able to take care of you in the future. Please take good care of yourself." After saying this, Shen Shuwei kowtowed to Shen Yuhong once more. Shen Yuhong was too shocked to speak. Shen Shuwei would rather sever ties with the Shen family than lower her head. She had already divorced Jiyu Ziyue, and now she was cutting ties with the Shen family. How would she live from now on? After kowtowing to Shen Yuhong, Shen Shuwei stood up, pulled her suitcase, and walked out without looking back. Mu Ru watched Shen Shuwei's disheveled figure with a fleeting smile flashing in her eyes. "Honey, don't let anger harm your health. Shuwei is just confused for the moment. She'll come to her senses eventually." Mu Ru soothed gently. Shen Yuhong glared at Shen Shuwei's retreating back and shouted sternly, "Shen Shuwei, once you step out of this door, don't ever come back begging for my help." After leaving the Shen family villa, Shen Shuwei drove her car to the apartment building where Sheng Sungyu lived, receiving Shen Shuwei's phone call. Sheng Sungyu quickly changed her shoes and went downstairs. "Sungyu, take my car and drive me to the airport." Shen Shuwei had already bought a plane ticket and planned to go abroad. The car was parked in Sheng Sungyu's parking lot. Sheng Sungyu was momentarily stunned. Where are you planning to go? Get in the car first. We'll talk later." Shen Shuwei sat in the passenger seat, speaking to Sheng Sungyu through the car window. On the way to the airport, Shen Shuwei recounted everything. Her divorce and being expelled from the Shen family. To Sheng Sungyu, hearing Shen Shuwei's tone, neither sad nor happy, Sheng Sungyu felt a deep ache in her heart. If she weren't driving, she would have reached out to hug Shen Shuwei. Shen's father is really too much. How can you only think about the family's interests and not consider your daughter's happiness at all? Shuwei, I'm here for you. You don't have to go abroad. If you stay in Haicheng, I can take care of you too. Sheng Sungyu said softly. "I really don't want to stay in Haicheng." Shen Shuwei sighed lightly. "Going abroad might be better. At least it reduces the risk of the Jiyu family finding out about the pregnancy." "That makes sense." Sheng Sungyu nodded gently. "But I'm still a bit worried about you being alone abroad. My brother is currently managing the overseas branch. I'll give you his contact information. You can reach out to him if anything comes up." Shen Shuwei responded, "Okay." Under the golden afterglow, Shen Shuwei waved goodbye to Sheng Sungyu and turned to enter the airport's departure hall. After completing the check-in procedures, Shen Shuwei's phone vibrated in her bag. Shen Shuwei pulled out her phone, glanced at the screen, and immediately answered the call. "Bro, Shuwei, where are you?" Shun Rui's anxious voice came through the phone. "I'm at the airport now." Somehow, Shun Shuwei's eyes welled up with tears again. Brother Shun Rui is probably the only person in the Shun family who cares about her. At the airport, "Are you planning to leave Haicheng?" Shun Rui was frantic and quickly said, "I'll come right now. Don't board the plane yet." "Brother, there's no place for me in Haicheng anymore. Just let me go." Shun Shuwei no longer wanted to stay in this city. Dad was just speaking in anger. He'll calm down after a while. "Shuwei, stay. I'll handle everything." Shun Rui's voice paused. "Besides, there's still Grandpa." Since Muru entered the Shen family, Shen Yuhong seemed to have erected an invisible wall between himself and his children. Although they were never particularly close before, their relationship was much better than it is now. Now, Shen Yuhong guards the family assets as if protecting them from thieves, keeping a tight grip on everything. Shen Rui, the eldest son of the Shen family, holds only a basic position in the company, no different from an ordinary employee. After their mother passed away, the only elder who genuinely cared for the siblings was their grandfather. Shen Shuwei remained silent for a moment before sighing lightly and saying, "Brother, when I get abroad, I'll explain it to Grandpa. I'm about to go through security now." so I won't talk to you anymore. If you have time in the future, you can come visit me overseas. Shui. Shunrui knew his sister's temperament. Once she had made up her mind, it was hard to persuade her otherwise. He let out a long sigh and said solemnly, "Once you're there, remember to let me know you're safe." "I will. Don't worry, brother." Shen Shui left the all-too-familiar city with a shattered heart. What awaited her was the unknown. Chapter 6. He seems a bit off. The sky darkened as Ji Yuzue sat on the living room sofa, watching the sunset gradually sink beyond the horizon until it disappeared from sight. With one less person in the house, it felt unnervingly quiet. The shoe rack lacked women's high heels, the coffee table was missing a white hand-painted mug, and the cosmetics on the vanity, along with the beautiful dresses in the wardrobe, all were gone. Shen Shui's belongings had been moved out, leaving the house feeling abruptly half-empty. "Mr. Ji, dinner is ready," Aunt Zhong said softly as she walked over from the kitchen and stood nearby. Ji Yuzue responded indifferently, then got up and walked to the dining room, pulling out a chair to sit down. The dishes prepared by Aunt Zhong, as usual, were vibrant in color and fragrant in aroma. However, when Ji Yuzue tasted them, they felt as bland as chewing wax, utterly flavorless. During previous dinners at home, Shen Shui would always sit across the table from him, speaking softly as they conversed. Now that seat sits empty. Ji Yuzue stared at the vacant spot, barely touching his food before pushing the bowl and chopsticks aside. After a while, Ji Yuzue received a phone call and then drove to Zero Bar. In the past, when friends invited him out for drinks, Ji Yuzue would usually decline. But today was different. He suddenly didn't want to stay home alone. Ji Yuzue had always devoted all his energy to his company, living a highly disciplined life between just 2 points. Frequent late-night bar hopping would inevitably leave him exhausted the next day, unable to perform at his best at work. In the booth at the bar, Ji Yuzue sat down, picked up his glass, and started drinking without hesitation. He poured himself drink after drink, one glass following another. Anyone could tell his mood was off, let alone his close friends. Jiang Yi and Ji Jingzhan exchanged a glance. Jiang Yi signaled Ji Jingzhan to ask, while Ji Jingzhan gestured for Jiang Yi to speak up instead. In the moment they exchanged glances, Ji Yuzue drank 2 more glasses of red wine. Finally, Ji Jingzhan couldn't hold back and spoke first. "Zue, do you have something on your mind today?" Ji Yuzue shook his head and said, "Nothing's on my mind, I'm just happy today." Jiang Yi asked, "Oh, did your company land a big project?" No wonder Jiang Yi would think this way. Ji Yuzue was a complete workaholic, and most of his moods were tied to work. Ji Jingzhan's eyes remained fixed on Ji Yuzue. Why did he feel that Ji Yuzue's current expression didn't seem like happiness at all, but rather like heartbreak? No, Ji Yuzue didn't elaborate further. He raised his glass and clinked it with the other 2. "Isn't the point of coming to a bar to drink? Come on, bottoms up." It was rare for Ji Yuzue to be in the mood for drinks, so as brothers, they were more than happy to keep him company. The 3 of them went back and forth, and soon quite a bit of alcohol had been consumed. Of course, Ji Yuzue drank the most and ended up completely drunk, slumping onto the sofa to lie down. "Somehow, I feel like Zue doesn't seem happy, more like he's troubled by something." Jiang Yi finally noticed that Ji Yuzue's behavior wasn't quite right. Ji Jingzhan smiled and said, "You're only realizing it now. I figured it out a long time ago. He's so drunk now. What should we do? I'll give Shui a call and ask her to come pick him up." As he spoke, Ji Jingzhan took out his phone, found Shen Shui's number, and dialed it. Beep, beep, beep. "Hello, the number you dialed is not answered for the moment. Please try again later." "Sorry, the number you dialed." After several attempts, the call still couldn't get through. Ji Jingzhan shook his head at Jiang Yi. "Can't get in touch with Shui." Jiang Yi said with a puzzled look, "How come Shui's phone can't be reached?" At this moment, Ji Yuzue suddenly opened his eyes and said in a slightly cold voice, "Don't call her." Ji Jingzhan and Jiang Yi exchanged glances, wondering what was going on. Were the couple having a conflict? Ji Yuzue narrowed his eyes and said, "I'm already divorced from her. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other." They were both very curious. This couple had been perfectly fine. So why had they suddenly gotten divorced? But seeing Ji Yuzue so utterly drunk, they swallowed the words on the tips of their tongues. Better to ask another day. Jiyu Ziua called the Jiyu family driver and asked him to come to the bar to take him home. The driver arrived shortly after, helping Jiyu Ziua downstairs and settling him into the back seat. The car slowly started and headed in the direction of Yujiang Mansion. As they passed along Riverside Avenue, nearing home, Jiyu Ziua suddenly spoke up. Laoyang, make a U-turn up ahead and go to Donghu Yashu. Yes, replied the driver, Laoyang. Immediately turning the steering wheel to head in the opposite direction. Half an hour later, the black Bentley stopped outside the Shen family villa, and the rear window slowly rolled down. Jiyu Ziua didn't get out of the car, just stared at the pitch-dark villa. She must be asleep by now, right? The cool evening breeze blew in through the window, snapping him back to reality instantly. Was he out of his mind? Why had he come to the Shen family's place? Since Shen Shuwei had made up her mind to leave, she would have nothing to do with him from now on. Habits are truly terrifying. He had simply grown accustomed to the presence of someone named Shen Shuwei. Jiyu Ziua rubbed his tense forehead and ordered, "Drive back to Yujiang Mansion." When Shen Shuwei proposed divorce, Jiyu Ziua adopted an indifferent attitude. It was always a contractual marriage devoid of mutual affection. When Shen Shuwei wanted a divorce, Jiyu Ziua agreed without a second thought. But after that day, Jiyu Ziua realized something was very wrong with him. Her every smile and frown kept appearing in his mind, impossible to shake off. Chapter 7. Returning home with the child. 4 years later, Haicheng International Airport. Terminal C Arrival Hall. The woman wore a white knee-length dress, layered with a long apricot-colored coat, paired with beige high heels. Her waist-length wavy hair cascaded down her back, giving her an elegant and graceful appearance. By her side were 2 adorable children who looked strikingly similar, a delicate little girl dressed in a puffy princess dress, lace-trimmed socks, and a pair of beautiful white Mary Janes. The other was a cute and handsome little boy, wearing a blue and white striped t-shirt with grey shorts and a Fujifilm camera hanging around his neck. He looked every bit the part of a little photographer. The 3 strikingly attractive individuals walking through the airport drew frequent glances from passing pedestrians. A few young girls whispered in admiration, "Genetics really do matter. Look over there, those 2 kids are so adorable." Yeah, absolutely. Their mom is stunning, like a celebrity. And both children are incredibly cute. Plus, the siblings are close in age, they almost look like twins. So enviable. The mother and her 2 children have attracted much attention. The stunningly beautiful mother is Shen Shuwei, who resolutely left Haicheng after her divorce. The pair of twins by her side are the children she was pregnant with at that time. Now 3.5 years old, for the past 4 years, Shen Shuwei has been living in the UK and has never returned. Yesterday, upon hearing that her grandfather had been hospitalized, Shen Shuwei was extremely anxious. She booked the earliest flight available and flew back to Haicheng with her children. "Shuwei, we've got all the luggage, let's go." A handsome man in a well-tailored suit pushed a luggage cart toward Shen Shuwei. "Huinan, thank you so much for your help," Shen Shuwei said with a bright smile. "I would have been completely overwhelmed without you." "You're welcome. I happen to have something to come back for anyway." A slight smile curved Sheng Huinan's lips. He was genuinely happy to have the chance to take care of her and the children. "My brother just texted saying he's already here, waiting for us at gate 12. Sheng Huinan gave a gentle nod. "All right, let's head over then." Shen Shuwei walked along the airport arrival corridor, holding Shun Ruochen's hand with her left and Shun Ruoche's with her right. Sheng Huinan pushed the luggage, following not far behind the mother and her 2 children. From a distance, they looked like a family of 4 returning from a trip. Watching Shun Shui's retreating figure, Fang Yu froze for a moment. Why did he feel that the woman just now looked somewhat familiar? She seemed familiar, but he couldn't quite place her at the moment. "Fang Yu, what are you staring at?" Jiyu Ziua patted Fang Yu on the shoulder from behind, interrupting his train of thought. "Nothing." Fang Yu withdrew his gaze and shook his head. "Let's go, Mr. Jiyu. The driver is here." It wasn't until they got into the car that Fang Yu suddenly remembered. The graceful woman from earlier looked somewhat like Mr. Gu's ex-wife. Mr. Gu's ex-wife has already remarried and even had 2 children. Yet Mr. Jiyu remains the same, working day and night without rest. At some point, he also developed insomnia and now has to take melatonin every day to fall asleep. Fang Yu let out a deep sigh. Hearing Fang Yu's sigh, Jiu Ziyue assumed it was because the business trip had been too exhausting, which was why he sighed. Jiu Ziyue raised an eyebrow and said, "You've been abroad with me for a month and secured a $200 million order. I'll grant you a week's leave, starting tomorrow. Take a good rest." Happiness came so suddenly that Fang Yu reacted swiftly, immediately responding, "Thank you for your consideration, boss." The parking lot outside the airport. Shun Rui got out of the car and stood beside it. Upon seeing Shun Shuai and the two children, he quickly waved his arms, revealing a joyful smile. "Uncle tilde tilde." The two little ones trotted a few steps and quickly bounced up to Shun Rui. "Ouch tilde." Shun Rui picked up both little ones with one hand each, nuzzled their faces, and gave them kisses. "My two little darlings. Did you miss your uncle?" "Yes, Chen Chen missed uncle. 1111 misses uncle too. Missed him yesterday, and the day before as well." Shun Rui goes abroad to visit the mother and her two children every 6 months, and they often have video chats, so the kids are very familiar with him. Hearing the children's answers successfully made Shun Rui's smile grow wider and wider. After the group got into the car, it became quiet inside. The two children, affected by the time difference, grew drowsy as soon as they got in the car and quickly fell asleep. Shun Rui whispered, "Shuai, how about we take you to the hotel first so the kids can rest for a while?" "No need." Shun Shuai shook her head. "They're not that delicate. Sleeping in the car is fine. I want to take the kids to see their grandfather as soon as possible." Having not returned to Haicheng for years and failing to fulfill her filial duties by her grandfather's side, Shun Shuai felt a pang of guilt in her heart. "I always thought there was plenty of time left, but no one could predict the sudden onset of illness. Cancer, it remains an incurable disease even with today's medical technology. By the time it's diagnosed, most cases are already in the middle or late stages. Life begins its countdown." As they approached the hospital, the siblings were awakened by the siren of an ambulance. Rubbing their eyes, they snuggled closer to Shun Shuai. "Chen Chen, 1111, let's visit great-grandpa at the hospital first, then we'll go back to the hotel to sleep, okay?" The two little ones nodded obediently. "Okay, we'll visit great-grandpa first." Shun Shuai took out a portable water bottle from her bag and gave the children some water to drink. Seeing Shun Ruosh's hair tousled from sleep, Shun Shuai gently smoothed it and adjusted her clothes. The car stopped at the hospital entrance. Shun Shuai got out with the child, took the elevator upstairs, and went directly to the floor where the VIP ward was located. Standing outside the ward, Shun Shuai suddenly halted. "Shuai, what's wrong?" Shun Rui turned to look at her. Shun Shuai took a deep breath. "It's fine, let's go in." As soon as she stepped into the hospital, the smell of disinfectant triggered an inexplicable unease in her heart. Shun Rui turned the doorknob and pushed the door open, leading the way inside. "Grandpa, look who I've brought to see you today." You finally brought your girlfriend to meet me." Old man Yu laughed heartily after speaking. Shun Rui was both amused and exasperated, replying, "Grandpa, it's not that I didn't want to. Where would I even get a girlfriend from?" At that moment, Shun Shuai led the children inside. Coming into Old Man Yu's line of sight, Old Man Yu's gaze focused slightly before lighting up with joy. He smiled at Shun Shuai and said, "Shuai, you've finally come back." Shun Shuai quickly walked to the bedside, holding Grandpa Yu's hand, tears falling one by one. "Grandpa, I'm sorry. I'm only coming back to see you now." Shun Shuai was filled with self-reproach for not staying by her grandfather's side to fulfill her filial duties, instead going far away to a foreign land and causing him worry. "Mommy, don't cry, don't cry." The two little ones, seeing their mother in tears, comforted her in their sweet, childish voices. Sheng Huainan handed the tissue to Shun Shuai, standing silently behind her, keeping her company. Chapter 8. Don't be afraid of failure. Good child, it's good that you're back. Old Man Yu's eyes were slightly moist as he raised his other hand and gently patted Shun Shuai's shoulder. Shun Shuai wiped away her tears, gently nudged the two children forward, and said to them softly, "Chen Chen, 1111, quickly greet great-grandpa." Shun Ruochen and Shun Ruoshi called out sweetly, "Great-grandpa Tilda." Old Man Yu beamed with joy at the sight of such an adorable pair of children, his eyes crinkling with delight. Good, good, such well-behaved little darlings. Great-grandpa Yu couldn't help but find his great-grandchildren utterly adorable no matter how he looked at them. Great-grandpa. You must listen to the doctor, the shot will make you feel better. Shunruoshi blinked her big eyes, her long lashes fluttering in a way that melted hearts. Shot, medicine. Great-grandpa will get better soon. Shunruochan nodded with utmost seriousness. Alright. Great-grandpa will definitely listen to the doctor. Great-grandpa Yu affectionately patted the children's heads and reminded them, and you must listen to your mom too. The two little ones nodded in unison and responded, I'll be good and listen. After staying in the hospital room for a while, Sheng Huinan stepped out to take a phone call, then said he needed to go back to the Sheng family home first. Before leaving, he reluctantly said to Shun Shui, call me anytime if you need anything. After Sheng Huinan left, Grandpa Yu asked Shun Rui to take the children downstairs for a walk. The grandfather and grandson hadn't seen each other for 4 years, and old man Yu wanted to have a good talk with Shun Shui. Grandpa, how are you feeling now? Did the doctor say when the surgery can be performed? As soon as the children left, Shun Shui began inquiring about his grandfather's health condition. My stomach hurts sometimes, but it's still bearable, old man Yu said. We'll do a comprehensive checkup in the next couple of days, if there are no issues. The surgery can begin very soon. Shun Shui looked at Grandpa Yu's gaunt cheeks, feeling as if a lump of cotton was stuck in her heart, unbearably uncomfortable. She had already heard from her brother that Grandpa's stomach cancer had reached the mid-stage, requiring the removal of half of his stomach. Grandpa, I don't plan to leave again after returning to the country this time. The children and I will stay in Haicheng from now on. Shun Shui said, that's wonderful. Grandpa Yu said solemnly, the way your father treated you back then, the Shun family, there's no need for you to go back. You and the children should come live with us at the Yu family home. Old Master Yu had only one daughter, Yu Wenjun, and Shun Yuhong was neither a responsible husband nor a responsible father. Shun Rui and Shun Shui often stayed at the Yu family home since childhood. Old Master Yu doted on his grandchildren, searching the world for exquisite clothes and beautiful toys for them. Shun Shui smiled and nodded. Yes, that's fine. I'll take the children and stay at the Yu family home. Originally, Shun Shui had planned to stay in a hotel for a few days first, then find time to look for a house and settle down with the children. As for the house divided during the divorce, Shun Shui intended to put it up for sale. Shun Shui and Jiyu Zeua had lived together in that house for over 2 years. And every corner of it held memories of each other. Since it was already a thing of the past, Shun Shui didn't want to dwell on the memories and add unnecessary troubles to her life. Old man Yu asked with a smile, Shui, why did you come back this time with Sheng Jianan from the Sheng family? Shun Shui quickly explained, please don't overthink it. Brother Huinan just happened to have business back in the country, so he simply took the same flight as us. Old Master Yu naturally didn't believe this. If it were truly just a coincidence, he wouldn't have gone out of his way to look after Shun Shui and her child. After leaving the airport, when Shun Rui picked up the mother and her 2 children, Sheng Huinan could have left then. Yet Sheng Huinan eagerly followed them to the hospital and only left when his family called to urge him. Oh, Old Master Yu smiled faintly. But I heard that Huinan has been taking good care of you and your child these past few years abroad. Shun Shui nodded slightly. Yes, Brother Huinan has been very kind to us. Sheng Huinan was the elder brother of her close friend Sheng Sungyu. When she first went abroad, Sheng Sungyu had told Shun Shui to reach out to Sheng Huinan if she needed any help. Shun Shui had agreed verbally, but after going abroad, she never once contacted Sheng Huinan. Her personality has always been like this. She doesn't like to trouble others and is afraid of being a burden. Half a month before her due date, Shun Shui was walking home after grocery shopping when her labor suddenly started, with amniotic fluid running down her legs. It was a rainy day that day. Shun Shui stood by the roadside unable to hail a taxi. Feeling helpless for the first time in a foreign land, she called 911 for emergency help. But the hospital said all ambulances were out and she might have to wait over half an hour. Shun Shui watched the endless stream of cars, raising her hand in an attempt to flag someone down for help. In the end, only a handsome man with Eastern features stopped his car. He helped Shun Shui into the vehicle and took her to the hospital. That man was Sheng Huinan. It was only later that Shun Shui learned he was the older brother of her good friend Sheng Sungyu. Fate truly works in mysterious ways. From that day on, Sheng Huinan would often visit Shen Shui, always bringing plenty of baby supplies and toys for the children. Shui, old master Yu sighed softly, it's been 4 years since your divorce from Jiu Zeyue. If you meet someone you like, you should be bold and give it a try. People shouldn't let the fear of failure hold them back. Yes, Grandpa, I understand. Shen Shui knew old master Yu was referring to Sheng Huinan. But these past few years she had been busy advancing her studies in jewelry design and raising her 2 children. As for matters of the heart, she hadn't even considered them. With 2 well-behaved and sensible treasures in her life, Shen Shui felt she had nothing more to ask for in this lifetime. Chapter 9. A missed encounter. The next morning, on the 3rd floor of the Yu family villa, the floor-to-ceiling window in the bedroom was pulled open, allowing sunlight to stream through the glass. Casting a hazy, pale golden glow across the room, Shen Shui stretched lazily before turning back to the bed, gently shaking the 2 little sleepy heads still deep in slumber. Time to wake up, sweethearts. After breakfast, we're going to visit great-grandpa at the hospital. Okay, Mom, Shen Ruochen replied, rubbing his eyes and obediently sitting up. Shen Ruoshi pouted her pink lips and cooed in a milky voice, I want Mommy to hold me. It seems girls are born to be delicate little things, with a natural talent for acting cute. Shen Ruoshi's chubby little face was fair and tender, her big eyes clear and bright, making her look like an exquisitely beautiful doll. Coupled with her sweet, soft voice, it was truly impossible to refuse her. Shen Shui wore a helpless expression as she bent down to scoop Shen Ruoshi from the bed, cradling her in her arms for a brief moment of soothing before placing her on the bathroom counter to wash up on her own. After washing up and changing clothes, Shen Shui led the 2 little ones downstairs. Descending the spiral staircase slowly, the butler stood in the 1st floor hall, slightly bowing as he respectfully said, Good morning, young miss, young master, and little miss. Breakfast is ready. Please proceed to the dining room. Thank you for the arrangements, Uncle Yao. Shen Shui replied with a smile and a nod. Butler Yao has been working for the Yu family for over 20 years and can be said to have watched Shen Shui grow up. As a result, Shen Shui is very familiar and affectionate towards Uncle Yao. After breakfast, Shen Shui took the children and got into a black Rolls-Royce arranged by Uncle Yao. It was the first time the 2 little ones had ridden in this car model, and they were extremely excited when they saw the Starlight headliner. Shen Ruochen said, Mom, there are little stars above our heads. Shen Ruoshi quickly followed. Mom, this car is so beautiful. I love this car, my dear. This car is indeed beautiful. Shen Shui, sitting in the passenger seat, turned around and said to the siblings, but this car belongs to your great-grandfather. Mom can't afford it. Shen Ruoshi nodded obediently. Oh, Mom, then we'll just look at it. Shen Ruochen then said, Mommy, when I grow up, I'll earn lots and lots of money to buy this car for you. Both little ones were very well behaved, which warmed Shen Shui's heart. Since the children were born, Shen Shui has taken care of everything personally. Shen Shui places great importance on education, believing that good character and habits must be cultivated from an early age. It's too late to correct it when you grow up. So now both little ones are exceptionally well behaved, giving Shen Shui much less to worry about. The car drove out of the Shanhu Yu Villa area, and after crossing an intersection, the traffic on the road gradually increased. Ahead, a large truck seemed to have broken down, pulled over to the side of the road. Driver Xiao Song turned the steering wheel, intending to pass by from the side and go around the large truck ahead. Just as he drove forward a short distance, a Bentley emerged from the right intersection, blocked by the truck's body. Neither driver noticed the other in time. Xiao Song hit the brakes immediately, but it was already too late. His car collided with the front of the other vehicle. The sudden braking caused everyone in the car to lurch forward involuntarily. Shen Shui felt a surge of worry and quickly turned to look at the 2 children, asking, Chen Chen, 1111, are you okay? Shen Ruoshi was so frightened she was on the verge of tears, but the small hand holding her brother's made her feel a little less scared. Shen Ruochen shook his head and said, Mom, we're fine. Seeing that the children were unharmed, Shen Shui then turned back to face the Bentley car in front. Sorry, miss, I wasn't careful enough just now, Xiao Song said apologetically to Shen Shui. It wasn't intentional. This spot is a blind zone, Shun Shui replied. You get out first and check the damage on the other car. Xiao Song opened the car door and stepped out, while Shun Shui's gaze also fell on the other vehicle, when she saw that familiar license plate number. Shun Shui's heart instantly pounded like a drum, her palms sweating slightly from sheer nervousness. After inquiring about the other party's damages, Xiao Song turned around and saw Shun Shui wearing sunglasses and a mask. He froze for a moment but quickly regained his composure. Miss, that's the GU family's car. There's some paint chipped around their headlight, but the damage isn't serious. Shun Shui nodded slightly. What did the GU family say? Young Master GU said the Yu and GU families are business partners, so he doesn't intend to make an issue of it, Xiao Song replied. In other words, we can leave directly. Xiao Song only started working for the Yu family 2 years ago, so he wasn't aware of the young mistress's divorce. Thus, he had no idea that the young Master GU he mentioned was actually Shun Shui's ex-husband. Shun Shui noticed that the front of the GU family's car only had minor scratches. Since Jiu Zhua wasn't making a fuss about it, she decided not to pursue the matter either. Her car had been driving straight ahead while overtaking, whereas the GU family's car had emerged from a right-side intersection. If the traffic police were to arrive, it's hard to say who's right and who's wrong, of course. Shun Shui didn't want to argue with the GU family. More importantly, she didn't want to see Jiu Zhua. Just the thought of possibly running into him made her feel flustered and uneasy. Shun Shui said softly, Xiao Song, then get in the car, and we'll continue driving forward. The Bentley from the GU family reversed a meter or two, then stopped in place, allowing the Yu family's car to pass first. Jiu Zhua sat in the back seat of the car, his gaze shifting away from the tablet as he glanced up at the Yu family's vehicle. In the passenger seat of the car sat a peculiar woman. It was an overcast day, and not only was she wearing sunglasses, but she also had on a black face mask. It looks just like a female celebrity going out, all mysterious and secretive. Has someone from the Yu family entered the entertainment industry? Jiu Zhua pondered for a moment before dismissing the thought. The only daughter of old Master Yu had already passed away, and Shun Shui had completely disappeared. No one in Haicheng had seen her in years. There were no other female family members in the Yu household, so who was that woman just now? All morning, Jiu Zhua had been feeling restless. Constantly pondering this matter, a faint suspicion lingered in his heart, but he feared it might just be wishful thinking. He didn't dare to hold on to any hope. Over these 4 years, he had searched for Shun Shui's whereabouts countless times. Yet even Shun Shui's father and brother claimed they didn't know where she had gone. Of course, whether the Shun family truly didn't know or simply refused to say, Jiu Zhua wasn't entirely certain. Jiu Zhua also suspected that Shun Shui might have already gone abroad. While he sent someone to investigate, they discovered that Shun Shui's passport information had been encrypted. All avenues of inquiry failed to retrieve her visa details. The Shun family doesn't possess that level of influence. The act of concealing her visa information was most likely orchestrated by Old Master Yu. Chapter 10. Jiu Zhua gets anxious. Haicheng, Dekang Hospital. This hospital is a high-end private institution that gathers top-tier medical resources from both domestic and international sources. Many of its departments rank among the nation's best in terms of medical technology. The hospital was established by the Jiang family. After completing his postgraduate studies, Jiangyi also began practicing here to prepare for eventually taking over the hospital's management. Jiangyi put on his white coat and walked out of the changing room, opening the door. The hospital lobby was bustling with people when a Rolls-Royce pulled up at the entrance. Shun Shui leaned out of the car and then turned to help 2 little ones out of the vehicle. The moment Shun Shui appeared, Jiangyi recognized her at a glance. It was none other than Jiu Zhua's ex-wife, Shun Shui. Jiangyi is Jiu Zhua's good buddy, and he could clearly sense that since the divorce, Jiu Zhua seemed to regret it. After Shun Shui got divorced, she completely disappeared. For the past 4 years, Jiu Zhua had been trying every possible way to find out her whereabouts, but there had been no news. Jiangyi took out his phone from his pocket and dialed Jiu Zhua's number. The phone rang over a dozen times on the other end, but Jiu Zhua didn't pick up. After a while, Jiu Zhua directly pressed the reject call button. Jiangyi muttered softly, "This guy really, I was trying to do him a favor by telling him, and he didn't even answer my call. Although he was muttering under his breath, his fingers were typing a message on the screen to send to Jiu Ziyue. Jiangyi, Ziyue, I just ran into Shen Shui. Jiu Ziyue was currently in a meeting in the conference room, which was why he didn't answer Jiangyi's call. Upon seeing Jiangyi's message, Jiu Ziyue's mind buzzed, and he could no longer hear any of the surrounding sounds. Fang Yu, sitting next to him, tugged at Jiu Ziyue's sleeve under the conference table and signaled with his eyes that the person below had finished their report and was waiting for him to speak. Jiu Ziyue snapped back to reality, cleared his throat a few times, and then looked up at Manager Qin, who had just finished the report. To outline the key points for follow-up work, Jiu Ziyue's right hand rested on the armrest, his slender index finger tapping lightly. Fang Yu, recalling Jiu Ziyue's earlier distraction, immediately understood the meaning behind his tapping. Everyone, President Jiu has an urgent matter to attend to outside. Let's adjourn today's meeting here and continue the discussion tomorrow at a scheduled time, Fang Yu said as he stood up. Meeting adjourned. Jiu Ziyue was the first to stand up, pulling open the wooden door of the meeting room and walking out. Returning to his office, Jiu Ziyue immediately called Jiangyi back. Hello. Who is it? Whatever it is, talk later. I don't have time right now. Jiangyi was deliberately playing hard to get. After all, Jiu Ziyue hadn't answered his call earlier. Look, who's the one in a hurry now? Jiu Ziyue gritted his teeth and said word by word, Jiangyi, you better watch your tone. Oh, so now you're in a hurry. I was in a meeting earlier. It wasn't intentional that I didn't answer. Jiangyi knew when to stop and put away his joking tone, speaking earnestly. Ziyue, I really saw Shen Shui just now. Where did you see her? Where else? At this time, I was just about to head to work, Jiangyi said. I just went to ask around. Old man Yu is seriously ill and currently hospitalized in the VIP ward at our hospital. That might be the reason Shen Shui has returned to Haicheng. Alright, I understand. Thank you, Jiangyi. After hanging up the phone, Jiangyi put his phone away and stepped into the consultation room, ready to start his workday. It wasn't until much later that he suddenly remembered there was still something important he hadn't told Jiu Ziyue. When Shen Shui appeared, she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by 2 children, roughly 3 or 4 years old. Perhaps, she had already remarried. Jiu Ziyue received the exact news from Jiangyi and immediately put aside all his work. He asked Fang Yu to postpone his upcoming work schedule and drove alone to the hospital. Upon arriving at the VIP ward, he mentioned Old Master Yu's name and quickly located the room, holding several bags of nutritional supplements in his left hand. Jiu Ziyue raised his right hand and knocked on the ward door. Come in, a gentle and pleasant female voice responded from inside the room. Jiu Ziyue's heart pounded wildly. It was really her. Shen Shui heard the knocking and assumed it was a doctor from the hospital. To her surprise, the person who walked in turned out to be Jiu Ziyue. Her lips parted slightly. Too stunned to speak. How could he suddenly appear here? Jiu Ziyue was dressed in a dark suit and custom-made black leather shoes, his hair neatly styled, his deep-set eyes gentle yet intense. For years had passed, yet he remained as elegant and handsome as ever, now with an added air of steadiness. Uncle Yu, I heard you haven't been feeling well lately, so I came right away to see you, Jiu Ziyue said with a smile as he walked in, placing the nutritional supplements he brought on a nearby table. Unlike Shen Shui's astonishment, Old Master Yu was quite composed and greeted Jiu Ziyue. Ziyue, that's very thoughtful of you. Have a seat and let's talk. Old Master Yu invited Jiu Ziyue to sit down, but there was only a 2-seater sofa in the room. Shen Shui was already sitting on one side, so if he were to sit down, the two of them would end up very close to each other. Jiu Ziyue noticed Shen Shui's nervousness and walked over to the sofa, sitting down beside her. He turned his head to look at Shen Shui and smiled casually. Shui, long time no see. Millimeter, long time no see. Shen Shui pinched her palm, forcing out a faint smile. While speaking with Old Master Yu, Jiu Ziyue's gaze involuntarily drifted toward Shen Shui. Old Man Yu noticed the expression on Jiu Ziyue's face. As someone who had been through it all, he could easily tell that Jiu Ziyue still couldn't let go of his granddaughter. At this thought, Old Man Yu mused silently to himself. Wondering what choice Shen Shui would make in the future, he truly hoped to see her find a happy ending before his time came. Jiuzhua stayed for a little over half an hour before rising to take his leave. Old man, you wasn't in the best of health, and it wasn't right to overstay his welcome. Shui, help me see Ziyue out, he said. At old master Yu's instruction, although Shen Shui was unwilling, she still walked out of the ward with Jiuzhua, walking side by side down the corridor. Jiuzhua couldn't help but ask, Shui, how have you been these past few years? Millimeter, pretty good, and you, not bad, same as always. In truth, Jiuzhua hadn't been doing well at all, often lying awake through the night. Several months after the divorce, Jiuzhua finally saw his own heart clearly. He missed Shen Shui every day. Perhaps he had truly fallen for her. The person he had been searching for years was now standing right before him. Jiuzhua's heart was filled with a basketful of words. Yet he didn't know where to begin. His marriage with Shen Shui lasted for over 2 years. Throughout their marriage, he remained distant and taciturn, treating her with indifference. In contrast, she often initiated conversations, trying to bridge the gap between them. That night, after their accidental intimacy, he chose to ignore it and never brought it up again. Looking back now, it was also an act of avoidance, because of these past events. Jiuzhua now appeared somewhat flustered in front of Shen Shui. The divorce was initiated by Shen Shui. At that time, she must have already felt utterly disappointed in this marriage. He knew very well that if he wanted to remarry Shen Shui, he couldn't be too hasty and had to take it step by step. Chapter 11A Heart-wrenching scene. The Jiyu family's driver was already waiting at the hospital entrance. Shen Shui wore a faint smile as she watched Jiuzhua open the car door and get in. Thank you for specially coming to visit Grandpa today, Shen Shui said politely, waving her hand. Goodbye. In her heart, she added, hopefully, we'll never meet again. You're welcome. Feel free to call me anytime. Jiuzhua's voice was gentle. Even though we're divorced now, you can just think of me as an ordinary friend. She nodded lightly and responded softly, Millimeter, okay. Shen Shui turned and walked back into the hospital lobby. Just then, Sheng Huinan entered through another door with Shun Ruochen and Shun Ruoshi. Mommy tilde. The two little ones saw their mother and happily called out a few times. Toddling over to Shen Shui on their short little legs, Shen Shui picked up one child in each arm, walking inside while talking to them. Did you have fun going to the park with Uncle Sheng? The children were only 3.5 years old, at that lively and active age. After spending a few hours in the hospital room, they were already getting restless. Sheng Huinan happened to come visit Grandpa Yu, so he took them for a stroll in the small park next to the hospital. Shun Ruochen nodded his little head. Fun. Shun Ruoshi, however, pouted with teary eyes and said, not fun. Seeing her precious daughter's pitiful expression, Shen Shui quickly asked, why isn't it fun? Mean bugs bullied 1111. Shun Ruoshi rolled up her sleeve, revealing chubby little arms. Got lots of bites. Oh, how naughty of the mosquito to bully our little 1111. Shun Shui kissed her daughter's chubby cheek. Mommy will apply some cooling ointment for you later, and the itchiness will go away very soon. Shen Shui was used to holding children, carrying one in each arm without feeling the slightest fatigue. Sheng Huinan also entered the elevator with them, planning to leave only after bidding farewell to old Master Yu. The Bentley from the Jiyu family had been parked not far away all along. Jiuzhua wanted to catch another glimpse of Shen Shui and hadn't instructed the driver to depart immediately. He never expected to see a man with 2 children walking up to Shen Shui, though he couldn't hear their conversation. The affectionate way Shen Shui treated the children made it seem like they were truly mother and child. And that man, could he be Shen Shui's current husband? The family of 4 chatting and laughing together. What a heartwarming scene. A thin layer of melancholy rose from the depths of his eyes, while a faint, self-mocking smile tugged at the corners of his lips. Indeed, Shen Shui had already divorced him. Why shouldn't she remarry, now? Shen Shui had built a new family and even had 2 adorable children. Thus, the bond between him and Shen Shui was likely beyond repair. For a moment, an overwhelming sense of regret pierced his heart, the pain gnawing at him like ants, leaving him breathless. The Jiyu family driver, noticing Jiuzhua's grim expression through the rearview mirror, asked softly, Young master, are you feeling unwell? Drive back to the company, Jiuzhua said coldly. The sky had darkened, And it was nearly 9 in the evening when Jiuzhua finally returned to the Jiyu family villa from the company. He carried an air of aloofness as he strode swiftly through the villa's entrance. The living room was lively, as if guests had arrived. The sounds of conversation and laughter continuously reached Jiuzhua's ears. At that moment, Jiuzhua only wanted to return to his room quickly and be alone for a while. Li Peiji's sharp eyes caught sight of Jiuzhua's figure. Seeing him about to go upstairs, she quickly called out to stop him. "Zhua, you've finally finished your work and come home. Yunyu has been waiting for you here for a long time." Hearing Li Peiji's words, Jiuzhua had no choice but to walk to the living room and sit down on the single sofa. After greeting Lin Yunyu, he lowered his eyes, pursed his lips tightly, and remained silent. Everyone present could sense his gloomy and dejected aura. Seeing this, Lin Yunyu didn't stay long and soon got up to say goodbye. Li Peiji had the butler arrange a car to send Lin Yunyu home. After Lin Yunyu left, Li Peiji exchanged a glance with Jiyu Yuanlin. Jiyu Yuanlin asked with concern, "Zhua, is there something going on at the company?" Jiuzhua replied, "Everything at the company is fine. Is there something troubling you?" Li Peiji looked at him affectionately. "You can talk to us if there's anything." "Nothing, I'm just a bit tired." Jiuzhua stood up. "Dad, Mom, I'll go rest in my room now." "Alright, get some good rest then." The living room fell silent. After several minutes, Li Peiji let out a soft sigh and said, "I really don't know what Zhua is thinking. Yunyu has been actively reaching out to him these past few years, but he's always been lukewarm in his response. Didn't we hear before that Zhua liked Yunyu? In my opinion, this is probably just a rumor." Jiyu Yuanlin shook his head. "Otherwise, he would have been with Lin Yunyu long ago. Then is he planning to live alone for the rest of his life? At the very least, he should think about the future. Indeed, he's only interested in work now. Will the Jiyu family have no heir?" Jiyu Yuanlin sighed deeply, his face filled with melancholy. "That won't do." Li Peiji slapped the armrest of the sofa. "It's about time we arranged a blind date for him. Will this work?" His last marriage ended in divorce precisely because it was a business alliance. He had no feelings for Shuei, and they ultimately separated. Hearing her husband mention Shen Shuei, Li Peiji said with a regretful expression, "Shuei is a good girl. It's a shame our Jiyu family wasn't fortunate enough to keep her." Many people say that the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship is the great unsolvable problem of the century. Pei Li and Shuei Shen hit it off immediately. The first time Pei Li saw Shuei Shen, she felt that the girl was beautiful, dignified, and had an excellent temperament. After spending some time together, Pei Li grew even fonder of Shuei Shen, treating her almost like her own daughter. Whenever she came across something new or interesting, she would always think of saving it for her. "Honey, I heard that old Master Yu was hospitalized a few days ago. I wonder if Shuei will return to Haicheng." "Oh, when did this happen? Why didn't you tell me?" "The Yu family has business dealings with the Jiyu family, and besides, old Master Yu is Shuei's grandfather. The two families are practically in-laws. We should go visit him." "Don't rush just yet," Jiyu Yuanlin said. "I only heard about this today as well. It's already very late. Let's get some rest early and visit old Yu at the hospital together tomorrow." "Yes, remember to have the housekeeper prepare some nourishing supplements," Li Peiji added. The night was deep, and the Jiyu family villa was enveloped in silence, both inside and out. Jiuzhua sat at his desk, the computer screen displaying a project proposal. Only when he was working could Jiuzhua avoid thinking about the things that saddened him. As soon as Jiuzhua closed his eyes, the scene he had witnessed at the hospital that morning replayed over and over in his mind. Shen Shuei had already married another man and built a happy, fulfilling family. Once, Shen Shuei had been his wife, but he hadn't known how to cherish her at the time. Now it was too late. Everything was the consequence of his own actions. The desk lamp on the table stayed on all night. A soft morning light seeped through the gap in the curtains. Jiuzhua rubbed his forehead, washed up, then went downstairs and drank 2 large cups of Americano before leaving for the office right on time. Chapter 12, The Yu Family Heir. The next afternoon, at the VIP ward of Dekang Hospital, Jiyu Yuanlin and Li Peiji stood by the hospital bed, gently inquiring about old Master Yu's health. "Ah, at my age, it's all just minor ailments, nothing serious," old Master Yu said with a smile. "I appreciate your thoughtfulness." Ziyue just visited me yesterday, and now you're here today. Li Peizhi was momentarily taken aback. Jiyu Ziyue had come yesterday. Jiyu Yuanlin quickly responded, saying, "You are highly respected and esteemed. A senior we deeply admire. It's only right that we come to visit you." Old man Yu asked with a chuckle, "How has your family's old man been lately? Is he still in Turkey?" Li Peizhi replied with a smile, "The old man is doing great. He recently took a hot air balloon ride in Turkey and has now gone to Switzerland. He's already so happy there that he doesn't want to come back." Old man Jiyu is also quite an interesting character. When he was younger, he valued his life too much and didn't dare to ride in a hot air balloon. In old age, one becomes fearless indeed. Live each day as happily as you can. The scenery in Switzerland is truly magnificent. Old man Yu's expression carried a hint of nostalgia. "My daughter accompanied me there before, and we even stayed for a month or two." After these words were spoken, the atmosphere in the hospital room instantly turned somewhat awkward. Old man Yu's daughter had already passed away, and his granddaughter was the former daughter-in-law of the Jiyu family. To be fair, after marriage, Jiyu Ziyue didn't treat Shen Shui very well. "After you're discharged from the hospital, you should take more walks when you have time," Li Peizhi said softly. "A better mood will help your body recover faster." "That's right. It makes sense." Old man Yu nodded in agreement. After visiting Old man Yu, Li Peizhi and Jiyu Yuanlin got into the Maybach. The car left the hospital and headed towards the Jiyu family villa. As if suddenly remembering something, Li Peizhi turned to Jiyu Yuanlin and said, "Honey, have you heard anything about the Yu family having a new child?" "What child? I haven't heard anything about that," Jiyu Yuanlin replied. "Old man Yu only has one daughter, and his grandson isn't married yet." As for his granddaughter, Jiyu Yuanlin's voice trailed off, and he didn't continue. "For the past 4 years, there has been no news about Shen Shui in Haicheng. As for Shen Shui's current situation, Jiyu Yuanlin naturally has no idea. Just now, I saw children's paintbrushes and a drawing book on the table in the ward." Li Peizhi sighed softly and asked, "Could it be that Shui has remarried and had a child?" Jiyu Yuanlin shook his head. "There's been no news of her these years. Who knows?" Alas, Li Peizhi sighed again. "If Shui and Ziyue hadn't divorced, we might have already been holding our grandchild by now. Fate is something no one can predict." Jiyu Yuanlin remembered that Jiyu Ziyue had once said he had no feelings for Shen Shui. If Jiyu Ziyue didn't love Shen Shui, then this marriage was nothing but a transparent fortress for both of them. "I've arranged to have afternoon tea with a few ladies this afternoon. I might as well see if there's anyone suitable for Ziyue," Jiyu Yuanlin said non-committally. "As you wish." Half a month later, Old man Yu recovered well after the surgery, and the doctor finally gave the discharge notice. Shen Shui and Shen Rui arrived at the hospital early in the morning to take Old man Yu home. As the car entered the gate of the Yu family villa and just parked, the two little ones came running over happily, calling out, "Great-grandpa Tilda, oh, what good little darlings." Old Master Yu held one child in each hand. "It's too sunny outside now. Let's go inside." Chen Chen, 11:11. Shen Shui reminded them, "Walk properly, no running, otherwise, Great-grandpa might fall." Shen Ruochen nodded vigorously. "Okay, Mom, we'll walk slowly." Shen Shui and Shen Rui followed behind them, walking at a leisurely pace. After returning home, Old man Yu wore a happy smile on his face the entire time. In the past, the Yu household was always cold and quiet. Apart from the butler and servants, Old man Yu didn't even have anyone to talk to at home. Now that his granddaughter had moved back into the Yu residence with her 2 children, the warmth of family filled the house all at once. At night, after Shen Shui had gently lulled the 2 little ones to sleep, she tiptoed out of the children's room. The butler stood in the hallway and softly said to her, "Miss, Old Master Yu requests your presence in the study." "All right, I'll go now." Shen Shui walked to the second-floor study and raised her hand to knock on the door. "Shui, come in." Old man Yu's voice came through the door. Shen Shui pushed the door open and entered. Seeing Old man Yu and Shen Rui seated by the window at the tea table, instead of tea sets, several folders were placed on the table. "Grandfather, Shui, come sit down." After she took her seat, Old Master Yu looked at the siblings and said gently, "Ruia, Shui, I had the butler call you here because there's something I want to say to you." Shen Shui and Shen Rui nodded simultaneously. Old Master Yu continued, Wen Jun is my only child, and as her children, you are naturally my heirs. After this serious illness, my health is no longer what it used to be. You must take on the responsibility and manage the Yu family's business well. Hearing Grandpa Yu say such words made Shen Shui feel somewhat sad. Birth, aging, illness, and death are natural laws that no one can escape. Looking at her grandfather's silver hair and increasingly gaunt cheeks, she truly felt terrible. After a moment of silence, Shen Rui spoke up, Grandpa, but I'm still working at Hongyu Group now. Hongyu Group is the Shen family's company. Built from the ground up by Shen Yuhong through sheer hard work in his early years, Shen Rui is currently working at Hongyu Group as a salesperson in the business department. This was Shen Yuhong's intention. Shen Yuhong's exact words were, You are meant to take over the company in the future. If you don't understand the business, you won't be able to manage the company properly. As a result, Shen Rui stayed in the position of a salesperson for 5 or 6 years. No matter how strong Shen Rui's work abilities were, Shen Yuhong never spoke up to transfer him to another position. From page, Old Master Yu sneered and said, Ruia, how can you still harbor illusions about someone like your father? If he had any plans for your future, he wouldn't have kept you in entry-level positions all this time. A dignified young master, a rightful heir, doing menial work in the company for 5 or 6 years, how can such an arrangement be reasonable? Shen Rui frowned and said, Grandfather, if I leave Hongyu Group now, wouldn't all my persistence over these years be in vain? Shen Shui completely agreed with her grandfather's opinion. If Shen Yuhong had any intention, he would have arranged for her brother's transfer long ago. However, Shen Rui's concerns were not unreasonable either. Leaving the Hongyu Group now would render all his previous persistence meaningless. Shen Yuhong would grow old one day, and after all, Shen Rui was his only heir. Old man Yu shook his head helplessly. Who knows what your father is thinking? Shui is a daughter. I know he favors sons over daughters, so he doesn't like Shui. But you are his only son. Shen Rui lowered his head in silence. No one knew what Shen Yuhong was thinking. He didn't grant Shen Rui any authority, as if he was still wary of him. Chapter 13. Returning to the old place, Old Master Yu had no choice but to turn to Shen Shui and ask, Shui, you've been back in Haicheng for a while now. What are your plans next? First, let's get the 2 children settled into school, Shen Shui said with a smile. After that, I'll follow grandfather's arrangements. Great. Shen Shui's statement left Old Man Yu very satisfied. Shui, during your years abroad, you continued your studies in jewelry design and took on many private custom design orders. You're already quite familiar with the jewelry industry, so I'd like to entrust Heir jewelry to your care. Shen Shui calmly asked, Grandfather, should I start from an entry-level position first? No need, I have faith in you. Grandpa Yu said kindly, even if you run the company into the ground, it's fine. Consider it practice. Shen Yuhong had Shen Rui start from the bottom, and even after several years, still hadn't let him near the company's core operations. Grandpa Yu, on the other hand, handed over full authority from the start, unconditionally trusting his granddaughter. The contrast between the two approaches couldn't be more striking. Feeling her grandfather's affection, Shen Shui's heart was gently warmed. As if caressed by a soothing breeze, Shen Shui smiled brightly and said, Grandfather, I will do my very best. Her mother was a jewelry designer, and growing up surrounded by such influences, Shen Shui had always been fascinated by the dazzling brilliance of diamonds and gemstones. As she grew older, it was only natural that she chose to major in jewelry design, following in her mother's footsteps and becoming a jewelry designer herself. Before getting married, my mother had worked at Heir Jewelry, and many of the jewelry pieces she designed became classic styles in the store. Since Grandpa entrusted Heir Jewelry to her, she will definitely manage the company well. After discussing Shen Shui's matters, Old Master Yu turned his gaze to Shen Rui and said earnestly, Rui, you are the heir of the Shen family, and at the same time, you and Shui are also the heirs of the Yu family. Currently, my health is still fine, and I can support you for a few more years, but in the future, it's hard to say. Grandpa, I understand. Give me 1 more year, Shen Rui said solemnly. In a year, whether or not I inherit the Shen family's company, I will take over Yu Corporation so you can retire in peace. With Shen Rui's assurance, Old Man Yu nodded in satisfaction. Good, then I'll give you 1 year. As it was getting late, after old man Yu finished discussing the important matters, the three of them each returned to their rooms to rest. Yujiang Mansion, 23rd floor. Having not returned for several years, Shun Shui had thought the fingerprint lock probably wouldn't open anymore, so she had brought a key with her. Only when I reached the door did I realize the fingerprint lock still had power. Shun Shui unlocked the door with her fingerprint and led the real estate agent inside. Miss Qin, please come in. The interior of the house was spotless, with no visible dust on any of the furniture. It didn't look like a place that had been vacant for years. Just as Shun Shui was feeling puzzled, Aunt Zhong walked from the balcony to the living room, carrying a watering can. Seeing that Shun Shui had returned, Aunt Zhong said with a delighted expression, "Madam, you're finally back, Aunt Zhong. We've already divorced." It felt somewhat inappropriate to still be addressed as Madam. Aunt Zhong immediately realized her mistake and said with a look of regret, "I'm sorry, Miss Shun. I got used to calling you that before. It's nothing." Shun Shui shook her head and asked, "Aunt Zhong, why are you here?" Shun Shui remembered clearly that on the day she moved out after the divorce, she had settled Aunt Zhong's wages and hadn't paid her since then. Surely Aunt Zhong wouldn't have been working for her for free all this time. "Miss Shun, Mr. Gu hired me to clean this way. Whenever you return, you can stay here anytime," Aunt Zhong explained. Hearing this, Shun Shui felt as if a bottle of mixed emotions had shattered inside her. In the past, Jiu Zhua wouldn't have paid attention to such trivial matters at all. After the divorce, he had instead become more considerate, quietly making these arrangements for her. If anyone said Shun Shui didn't like Jiu Zhua, it would definitely be a lie. It was just that at that time, hearing Jiu Zhua say with her own ears that he didn't like her, Shun Shui's budding affection was instantly doused with a bucket of cold water. Her heart turned cold, bone-chillingly so. Now, returning to the house they once lived in together, Shun Shui was overwhelmed with a flood of emotions. Back then, if Jiu Zhua had shown her even the slightest kindness, just once, she would have fallen for him like a moth to a flame, without hesitation. But he was just an unmelting block of ice, turning a blind eye to her kindness. "Miss Shun, may I take some photos of the house?" The real estate agent's words snapped Shun Shui out of her reverie, and she quickly replied, "Of course, feel free to take as many as you like." Auntie Zhong set down the watering can and brought a glass of warm water to Shun Shui. "Miss Shun, are you planning to sell this house?" "Thank you." Shun Shui took the water glass and took a sip. "Yes, I don't live in this house, and it's a shame to leave it idle. It's better to cash it out." "That's true." Sister Zhong nodded lightly, but there was a hint of melancholy between her brows. Selling this house would mean that Sister Zhong was about to face unemployment. Aunt Zhong had just bought an apartment for her son the year before last and had originally planned to support him for a few more years to ease his burden. The sudden job loss made Aunt Zhong worry. She was getting older, and finding another job wouldn't be easy. Shun Shui seemed to see through Aunt Zhong's thoughts and suggested, "Aunt Zhong, if you don't have other plans, would you like to come work for the Yu family with me?" Having interacted with Aunt Zhong for years, Shun Shui was very satisfied with her work ethic and character. Coincidentally, Shun Shui also wanted to find a reliable person to take care of Chen Chen and 1111's daily needs. After taking over the jewelry company under the Yu family, Shun Shui feared she might neglect the children once she became busy. The Yu household had 40 or 50 servants, but Shun Shui wasn't very familiar with them, making it difficult to choose someone suitable. Seeing the opportunity to continue working, Aunt Zhong eagerly responded, "I'd be happy to." Shun Shui made a demand, "But you must cut off all contact with President Ji Yu. From now on, she would be the one paying Zhong Seo's salary." So naturally, she didn't want Zhong Seo to remain in touch with Jiu Zhua. This was also to make Zhong Seo understand clearly who her real boss would be from now on. "All right, Miss Shun." Zhong Seo took out her phone and, right in front of Shun Shui, deleted Jiu Zhua's phone number. After the agent finished taking photos and videos, Shun Shui took Aunt Zhong back to the Yu family. Upon returning to the Yu family villa and seeing the twins, Aunt Zhong finally understood why Shun Shui had emphasized that she must never contact Mr. Ji Yu in the future. Oh my goodness. The pair of exquisitely beautiful twins before her looked strikingly similar to Jiu Zhua, especially Shun Ruochen. Upon closer inspection, one can see a shadow of Jiu Zhua in his eyebrows and eyes. recalling Shun Shui's nausea and vomiting before the divorce. If anyone were to say these two children had nothing to do with Jiyu Zeyue, Aunt Zhong would absolutely not believe it. Aunt Zhong, from now on, you'll be responsible for taking care of these two children. Shun Shui introduced the children to Aunt Zhong. Aunt Zhong had previously worked as a postpartum and childcare nanny. With her gentle and patient personality, she knew how to quickly build rapport with children. In less than a day, Aunt Zhong was already able to take the children to the garden to play by herself. Shun Shui breathed a sigh of relief. It was good that the children had accepted Aunt Zhong. Next, she would need to start looking for a kindergarten for the two little ones and prepare to take over Heir Jewelry. Thank you all for watching. This is a full-length novel. If you'd like to see the continuation, please leave a comment saying looking forward to more or give the video a like. I'll update promptly based on your feedback. See you next time.